I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all.
But is he though? Stay tuned for more TNBT. What's up, you curious Star vs fanatics, and today it's time that I do something that I admittedly haven't done in quite some time, and that's making a theory video of my very own that hopefully no one has said yet, but here I go anyways. What if I told you that Marco isn't exactly human? Well, in this analysis, we're gonna go in depth with that topic. So let's start off with one of the most controversial moments in Star Versus. Marco punching through Toffee's skin. You'd think that he'd be like Krillin from off of DBZ trying to punch a stronger opponent, but that was not the case. I understand that I already talked about this in my previous episode analysis for the show, and how it could have been possible for Toffee to have tough abilities like burrowing Moon Butterfly in the ground, symbolizing that he is the superior, flinging Marco across the air like a ragdoll, and, well, those muscles. But I theorize that his skin could be of a certain vulnerable lizard species, since his species in the show are made up, and though he is strong, his skin still is quite weak. And also, that could be even how Star was able to easily stun him in the episode Storm the Castle, which is an episode I've mentioned for the millionth time, but besides all that, the blast cut off his entire arm. When you compare her blasting towards other creatures, notice how much less fragile they are, and how they all keep coming back in the next episode or two as well. How much was Ludo paying these monsters to get beat up over a wand every single day of their lives working for him? That is, unless like Buffrog, they all just needed a place for shelter to crash in, I guess. Okay, now I'm getting off topic. The whole point is Toffee's strength at certain parts of his body are vulnerable, most likely, like his stomach, upper arms, and more than likely his tail as well. Now the next one on the list is the episode Friend Enemies. If you've seen it, you may already know what I'm about to bring up. When Tom, the demon, just wanted to point that out, traps Marco with a giant lock on the exit door, Marco, out of pure rage, manages to burst out of there with a single kick. This is undeniably the second most controversial moment. I would mention the giant squirrel that Marco managed to bring down in the episode School Spirit, but don't worry, I'm definitely gonna get into that eventually. Let me remind you that the door had 4 chains and a gigantic lock to top it all off. But to a certain extent, we have to also realize that all of this could be cartoon logic. I mean, this still is a cartoon after all. Now let's finally get into the giant squirrel takedown incident. It doesn't take much thought to realize that Marco went straight for its weak spot. You know, like cats in a way, with their tails as well. So I wouldn't necessarily call this an undoable task for a human, though it is freaking huge. I guess basically the same thing could be said about the episode Running with Scissors. Though admittedly it took much patience and many trials, I still don't believe that if it was possible, it would be impossible for a human being to do all of that. But one thing I will say, oh my gosh, his determination is just on a whole nother level. An educated guess of mine was Marco could still be affected by the monster arm from season 1. But no, in case you're thinking about the same assumption that I was thinking about just previously, the arm Marco used to punch Toffee was his left arm, not his right. It's almost like what they did to us in the episode Naysayer. I swear, it's almost like they're teasing us on purpose. Anyways, episodes like Toffee and the Page Turner came out after the events of the monster arm, so does that mean the arm really hasn't gone away? In the episodes I mentioned, it would make certain events from them make a bit more sense. It would explain Marco's deep dark inner drive for dark magic. And if I'm wrong and Toffee's strength does actually match his skin toughness, then maybe that explains the punch as well. Kinda. What? I mean, you think that the monster arm actually just transferred over to his other arm, secretly taking control? I mean, on the contrary, the monster arm did say this before it died out.
You'll never get rid of me! I'm part of you now!
You can treat the symptoms, but you'll never cure the virus!
And another thing is that Marco seems to be still paranoid after those events. I'm sure you've seen this many times. Now let's talk about other instances following the events with the arm, but this time his limitations. Marco still gets pain inflicted onto him on his right arm. Okay, I'm sorry, this is literally the only example I could find. And do not worry, because that is not the only point I'm gonna make. The next significant point that I wanted to talk about was Marco's personality. One major thing to realize is even throughout the rest of Season 1, Season 2, and the beginning of Season 3, his personality hasn't changed much at all. Marco surprisingly has and always been one of the kindest people throughout the entire show. As we've all witnessed from the episode Monster Arm in Season 1, it did change Marco's attitude. And as of that episode, I haven't seen too much of his behavior flopping every now and then. I mean, nowadays, whenever we see Marco in a bad mood, it's for a good reason. We haven't seen him terrorizing anyone lately. After all that, my only response would be that Marco is indefinitely human. However, there is still some potential of the monster arm coming back one day. And it's possible for Eclipse to even someday take that to her advantage. But that is a video for another day. Okay, it's time I ended this video.